Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast. My name is Perry.
And I'm your host, David. Before we continue, you can always find us on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube as The Fire Caves, a Star Trek podcast, which we will now, as of today, begin starting talking about the show Voyager.
That is correct. And as I say every single week, and now get to continue saying every single week, you should find us and follow us because we're great, we're awesome, we're a good time, and we are starting something new. As David said, we are getting into Star Trek Voyager with the pilot episode that we both got to watch today and going to talk about it. Now, of course, before we dive into Star Trek Voyager, we like to give ourselves an opportunity to recap and catch up. And this is also kind of. Uh, a great time to do it because not only have we not talked to each other in a while, but we've had this winter storm hit. So when I ask, how are you doing? I mean, really, how are you doing? How are you making it through this winter apocalypse for 2026?
Yeah, things are fine here where I'm at. I don't start work at my new job until later this week, so I've just been off. And yesterday, I was with some friends. We were playing that 12-hour long board game that I've mentioned in the past. Twilight Imperium, it's called. We were playing a new variant of the game that just came out called Twilight's Fall, which is a more chaotic version of the game where instead of playing as an alien race, you're playing as a dominant alien race that like conquered all of the other races, and instead of like being just one alien race, you combine the various features of various races. You kind of pick and choose which abilities from which faction you want at certain points, so you kind of like mesh them all together. So that was a fun time yesterday. Of course, my friend, the one who's like the best at the game, he probably won. We had to end a little early because the weather got a little nutty last night. It does take legitimately like 12 hours to play. So, right about at the 11-hour mark, instead of playing a full 12 hours, we were like, the weather's getting a little gnarly. Probably should go ahead and just call it a game and go home. And so we agreed that he probably would have won. I was hoping for the win there at the end. I think I might have maybe pulled it out, but I don't know. We'll never know officially whether or not that would have been my game or not. But fun time. It's still a fun game to play. But yeah, how about you? How are you holding up?
We're doing all right now. We had, obviously we knew that this was coming this week, so we were trying to do a lot of extra prep stuff. Wednesday and Thursday, finishing up any kind of shopping and stuff like that, and getting my daughter out of school, and everything was pretty much on lockdown mode. Unfortunately, one of the few things that I forgot to pick up was extra water. So
Hmm.
Friday evening, I was driving around trying to find, bottles of water and things like that. And of course, everywhere was sold out. Not a single major store had any. Thankfully, something everybody thinks you pay attention to as well, like all gas stations for some reason always have a lot of extra bottles of water. I don't know why. I didn't question it. I was just thankful this time that I was able to go over to QT and pick up 4 cases of water that thankfully we haven't really had a reason to touch. Yes, the weather did, the temperature dropped significantly. We had that rain that came through with the wind and everything else. It was so bad it actually blew some of the planks off the fence in my backyard.
Wow.
So have to have that looked at and fixed. But other than that, everything is fine. Everything is iced over right now. It's still really, really cold. School has already been canceled for tomorrow. Kind of hoping work gets a delay or something, but as we all know that for adults there's not really a snow day unless it's like a true catastrophe. So
Right.
but other than that, we're doing all right. I spent a lot of my time kind of going through some things and watching some things. I watched the new um, Blade Runner movie that's available on Paramount Plus as well. So if you have Paramount Plus or Access or whatever it is, and you want to watch it, you can. I thought the movie was all right. It didn't. it was a nice update, I guess, to the original, and made me realize there were certain aspects of the original, like the plot of the movie, that I didn't really know. So I kind of went back and looked at some things to see how they compare. It's not really a direct comparison, but there's still enough there that it's that the foundation of the movie is the same. The actor who plays our main runner in the movie, I don't think I've ever seen him in anything before, so I'm not really sure how he got from whatever it was he was doing to Blade Runner. But hey, I thought he did an all right job in the movie. There are some, memorable faces. Michael Cera's in the movie. Um, what's the guy's name who played Thanos?
Um,
Uh, man, his
oh
name's on tip.
gosh, I know, me too.
Brolin,
Um,
that's who
yeah.
it is. Josh Brolin. He's in it as well. Uh, I think they're probably two of the more notable people in the movie. So, but yeah, like I said, not a bad movie. You know, there it is. Go watch it if you're a fan of Blade Runner. You'll probably find something to enjoy about it. Um,
Okay.
One thing that we're going to talk about a little bit later is another thing that I watched, which this time it was the Star Trek Starfleet Academy show. So I'm going to save what I want to say about that for a little bit later, but I did end up watching it. There are now 3 episodes available also on Paramount Plus. So if you're interested in all, you can go and check that out. And then, of course, I have been starting to watch or another watch of Battlestar Galactica. They recently 25th anniversary of the show. No, 21st. I'm sorry, 21st anniversary of the show, and I've been slowly making my way through some of the episodes. So that was a lot of fun. Also, um, the video game Halo is also celebrating an anniversary as well. So a friend of mine that I used to play with a lot in high school, we have decided to go through the games that we've been kind of spot checking and playing some stuff too. It's amazing how much that series has also changed and evolved. And we were playing it, and we're both saying about the same things. Like I remember when this was just a book, like there was no game.
Hmm.
This just one of the many books in the series, and we read this book, and now they have a full game based off of it and so forth. And so that was pretty that was nice, very nice nostalgia moment going
Right.
playing this game that I really as we were playing it and I was talking about it, I have not actually sat and played a Halo game in yeah, probably about 20 years.
Wow.
So the series has definitely expanded a lot. There are way more books. We just kind of got into this whole like Halo spiral, and we're just
Yeah.
looking at all the stuff. There's the novels. There was an original like 7 novel set. Uh,
Hmm.
then they've expanded those. There's so many of them now. There's comic books. Of course, we know about the failed live action show, which is still available also on Paramount Plus if you want to.
Waste your time.
Know why you would want to take my word for it. It's awful. But yeah, and then of course there's the games, and they're all available on whatever platform. That was the part of the anniversary. The game has now officially become cross-platform available in all of its iterations. So whether you're a PC gamer, you're a console gamer, whatever it is, you can play Halo now. So if you're
Gosh.
interested, go check it out. Um, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much how we've been spending these days, trying our best to not have to go out because this winter storm apparently has shut down the majority of the United States. It's like it's not isolated at all. It's yeah, nationwide. And that's rare. So, but we're not here to talk necessarily about all of that. We are here to talk about Star Trek and of course Star Trek Voyager. Um have but before we get into Voyager, just really quick, have you watched or do you have any intention of watching the Starfleet Academy show?
No, I mean, I haven't watched any of the new stuff, so I feel like if I was going to watch any of the new shows, I'd want to, start from the beginning with the new ones. But I also haven't heard great things about this new show. That it's got some problems. I mean,
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that I brought this up this way because before we get into Voyager, which is what we now, as they continue to analyze the franchise, is considered classic Trek. It kind of bookends classic Trek. Um, in watching the and being a lifelong fan, and in watching the first 3 episodes of the series, the new series, I can see why so many people have a problem with it and why they say that it's not for them. And while there are certain aspects of the show that I thought have potential, I also feel like this is not for me. Okay. Not saying necessarily that it's a bad show. I'm just saying it's not for me.
Right.
The reason is just like what I said when we were doing all of our other shows previously, that I was curious of how they were going to address all their, all the fan base and everything else. And it's clear that they're not. The aim here of this show very much is new people, and in particular, new young people. Everybody in the show is somewhere between the ages of about 20 to 25. Being generous there, I really think it's more like 20 to 23, which, I mean, 2 years maybe not make much of a distinct difference, but it's just what I said. It's people who are not sure of themselves. They're trying to find their footing. They're trying to understand who they are and what they want to be and what they want to be about. And that's not something that a lot of people who are my age necessarily think about anymore. Um,
Right.
you may still have a lot of those thoughts, but it's shifted. It's framed a little bit differently because, as an older person, a lot of things for you have already been established that are not going to change. With these individuals, that's not the case for them at all. They are all very much, untried, untested, trying to figure themselves out, trying to figure out how they fit in this new world and everything else. And yeah, that's why I don't think that it's for me. Some of the things that I thought were interesting were, them talking about lessons in, figuring things out, employing empathy when trying to, relate to your potential enemy or adversary or anything like that. Those are things that I think transcend age,
Uh-huh.
because we all, trying to figure out ways to have better conflict resolution and conflict management. I don't think that that's something that ever stops at any age, but because the focus was very much about young kids getting over pranks and having like a prank war against each other and things like that. That's not something that adults really do. So, um, if the show continues and they like reinforce these lessons and find different ways to employ them on a more adult level, that would be interesting. But again, most of the show is all about young love. Like I said, figuring each other out, uh, all of that kind of high schooly stuff that we've all, as older fans, have by and large gotten over. So it's not an important focus for us.
Right.
Um, Also, there's a lot of different like alien aliens that we see that we don't really have an explanation for yet, and still kind of waiting on that. I know that there is a lot of pushback about the the trainer who is a half Klingon, half Jem'Hadar hybrid.
Right.
We also have a young Klingon who doesn't want to be a warrior, but is instead wanting to be a doctor, I think,
Uh-huh.
or at least a scientist. I'm going to say doctor. I think I picked up on that. And so there's been a lot of pushback about that. But while I can't say anything about the Jem'Hadar Klingon hybrid because I don't know. Um, Having a Klingon who doesn't want to do the traditional warrior path is something that we have seen in Star Trek before. Worf's son Alexander didn't want to be a warrior. We saw the Klingon who owned a restaurant and sang opera to people. We've had other Klingon scientists and stuff that have come on. Ambassador Kalar, well, was an ambassador for all you know there's enough there in the Klingon populace over time that we've seen them be different that this shouldn't really be surprising. And again, one thing people should remember is the show is set 1,000 years into an already futuristic universe.
Sure.
So no group of people are a monolith. There are going to be people who do different things, and this guy falls in that category. Um, I think the character is interesting if a bit stunted. I don't know if that's because the prosthetic, and I think they do some kind of voice modulation to him. So if they're having to add certain filters and everything else to the voice, that may be why they don't use him as much, don't have him speak as much, because there's a cost for everything. But the
Hmm.
character maybe in time will bear out. They're up against a huge, clock here because they only have 10 episodes to tell their first season story. So not everybody's going to get any kind of major feature just yet. So we may
Right.
have to wait a season or two before we find out what all the characters do. There is a lot of overemphasis on two particular characters. I feel the main guy, Caleb, and his love interest, who's the Betazoid in the show. I could do with a little less of them and a little more of some of the other characters. Maybe spread that love a little bit around, let other people have some spotlight time.
Uh-huh.
But again, we're only 3 episodes in, plenty of time in the season for them to do a little bit more with some of the other characters. But overall, like I said, I get it. If you watch it and you feel like, this isn't for me, it's probably because you're older than the target audience. It's not necessarily to say that the show is bad. Will I continue to watch it? I'm gonna say maybe. Will I be like dedicated to it every week? Gonna be there when the premiere drops, all that? Probably not. This is just not the show for me to do that on. But maybe after 4 or 5 episodes, more episodes have come out, I might come back to it, check out, see what they've done. That will probably be how I, watch the show.
Right.
But all right, now that's all I gotta say about that. I'm not gonna beat up on the show a whole lot because it is very, very new. There's a lot of weird stuff about characters. I will say this that did annoy me. The captain, sit in the chair. Sit
Yeah.
in the chair. Just
I
sit
heard
in
about
it.
that.
Not lounging, not got your feet kicked up. Like is Tarantino filming this? Like I don't understand the gratuitous foot stuff. I don't need to see your feet jutting awkwardly directly into the camera even. I mean, if you want to highlight that your character doesn't wear shoes or whatever, you can do that without me having to literally be able to count the wrinkles on the bottom of your feet. Okay?
Right.
I don't need to see that. No one needs to see that. So just keep your feet out of the camera.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I don't care that you don't wear shoes. I don't know why you wouldn't wear shoes. You're walking around with a bunch of aliens who are excreting things all over the place. Don't know why you wouldn't want to wear shoes, but hey, whatever, Cap.
Right.
Sit in the chair, put on shoes, or keep your feet out of the camera and move on. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that serious. I don't need to see you slinking all over the chair like you're some kind of weird half human, half cat thing. Just sit in the chair.
Right.
And also, the chair is too big for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't mean that metaphorically. It's literally too big for you. They
Well,
built
Holly
that chair.
Hunter is a small woman.
Yeah.
It's
And I mean, I don't know why they would make your chair so big. And then even the crazy part is in the opening episode, there's a whole scene where she sits in the chair and the chair is supposed to adjust to her. Um, didn't adjust its size at all. The chair is entirely too big.
yeah.
Shrink that down. Make it an actual chair. Okay? That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna that is annoying. That is just weirdly annoying. Um and also really quick on that, I did see someone say, imagine being so bothered by an imaginary whatever, because you've equated imaginary people with having a level of status. No one would be saying that if this was anything. It's because the character is a woman and sitting in the chair and all that kind of stuff that someone's wanting to say, oh, it's just a fake chair on a fake show. It's not that big of a deal. People literally grew up watching this show and being told over and over and over again that the captain's chair is the chair. That is
Mhm.
a position of power, authority, almost regality, when especially in regard to Captain Picard. The way in which that chair was always treated, no one sat there but the captain. Even the captains sit there with a certain amount of respect and deference when they're in the chairs. So when you've been trained over the intervening decades to respect something like that or to have that kind of mindset when looking at said chair. To see someone who's just gonna lounge over it and literally kick their shoes off and she's all just kind of whatever, yeah, that's annoying. Okay, that's a legitimate complaint. Stop excusing everything just because the person who happens to be doing it is a woman. There are some things that are unacceptable, male or female. If the captain was a man and he walked in there in his, skivvies and sat down in the chair and propped his feet up and was, scratching himself or something, you ought to be like, oh, so gratuitous. This is really, that's exactly what she's doing. That's basically what she's doing here.
Hmm.
So it's a legitimate complaint.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Yeah, you want to respect these officers if they're going to be the
Yeah.
lead character of this, whether it's a ship or a station or a academy. Yeah,
You want to
yeah,
feel like they've earned it. Even in the Star Trek Picard show, when Picard's son in the show, um, at one point drops into the captain's chair and Seven immediately tells him to get out of the chair. It was a funny little aside moment, but you also understood it. He hadn't earned the right to sit in that chair at all. So you just plopping down into the chair because you are Picard's son, that means nothing. You have to earn it. So you would expect that your captain has earned it. And the way that she's sitting in it doesn't belie a person who's earned the position. You want to lounge around, go to your
right,
quarters, go to your ready room even. Hell, put a couch in there. You want to, lounge about. I'm fine with it. Go ahead. But not
right.
on the bridge. Not on the bridge, not the
Yeah,
center focus where you are the ultimate role model for everyone to
I
look up to.
remember seeing an image of her like reading a book, and she's lounged in such an uncomfortable way that it's like, how are you comfortable? Why are you doing it on the
Yeah,
bridge?
I saw that image too, and I thought that it was like a photo taken of her like behind the scenes while she was like trying to study lines. I didn't know that that was like what the character did,
Right.
you know? And it just bothered me.
Yeah.
And it's going to bother a lot of people. And I hate that every time that something comes up, it's always viewed as, oh, you're thinking about it too much or get over whatever. There are some things that are legitimate, there are some things that aren't. We have to be able to talk about them in order to figure out what is what. You can't just dismiss everything out of hand. You have to be able to actually sit and consider what's being said as a gripe, complaint, whatever it is. And I think that this is one. Yes, could it be viewed as minor? Sure, but again, look at the history of what it is that has been put before us. Okay, I don't think that it's a bad idea that they address this, and especially considering even in the show's universe, they're talking about this is the first time that Starfleet Academy has been opened. You got these are the first group of cadets. She's the first chancellor in like 1,000 years or whatever.
Hmm.
So okay, if this is your first go at this in so long and you're trying to show that you guys have elevated, you've earned this position and everything else, why wouldn't you have a character who treats such a prominent seat that historically, even in your own universe, historically has been where the legends have sat?
Hmm.
Why wouldn't that person still treat it with such um,
Reverence.
respect
Yeah.
and reverence? Exactly. So but whatever. Okay, now officially, we're not here to talk about that because that is way too long. We are here to talk about the first episode of Star Trek Voyager called Caretaker.
Yep. A two-parter.
It is a two-parter. Um, I'm going to go ahead and sum this one up for us because we have a lot to talk about because you've never seen the show before. So I'm going to just kind of
Go for it.
run us through it. So Voyager picks up where a lot of DS9 in the first three seasons left off, especially with the Maquis. We knew that the Maquis were fighting a losing battle with the Cardassians over the demilitarized zone that the Federation had signed a treaty to establish. And so we see a crew on a small Peregrine class fighter going after one of the Galler class or being attacked by one of the Galler class Cardassian ships. Good old Gully Vec makes a cameo for us here as the Cardassian, tracking down these Maquis uh, fighters. They're trying to get away. They go into the Badlands, which, again, if you're familiar with Deep Space Nine, the Badlands is this area where plasma storms happen in perpetuity. So it's a great place if you've got a small maneuverable ship to lose a big threatening ship like the Cardassian ship.
Hmm.
They try, they do get away, but they're scanned by a weird beam which sends a displacement wave after them, and before we know it, they disappear in a flash of light. This brings us to Catherine Janeway, who introduces herself to a prisoner named Tom Paris. Now, don't freak out if Tom Paris looks familiar. We're going to get to that. It's not who you think it is. She comes to Tom because Tom um, used to work with the Maquis, and she wants him to help her track down these Maquis because there are some people on the ship that she wants to get back. He's going to be an observer, even though he tells us he's a hotshot pilot. We have no proof of this, but he's going to be an observer. He ends up going to Deep Space Nine, where we see our new hero ship, Voyager.
Hmm.
Voyager is a bit smaller than a bit smaller than a Galaxy class ship, but she's powerful, she's fast, and she's got some brand new technology that we've never heard of before, bioneural circuitry. They're going to head out from Deep Space Nine to the Badlands to try to track down the ship. They think they know the course that the ship's taken. They go out there. They also are scanned by a weird beam. They're also hit by a displacement wave, and they wake up on the other side of the galaxy, 70,000 light years away. Ship is in terrible shape. A bunch of people have died, and the captain and some of the other officers that are still alive lock down the warp core so it doesn't explode. And as soon as they basically get the ship out of immediate danger, everybody's beamed off the ship where they're experimented upon. They wake up a little bit later and they're on a farm. They're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. We were just on the ship, then we were here. They start doing some scans or whatever else. They find a weird life form in a barn. They go to the barn, try to figure it out. They're confronted by a crazy old lady with a pitchfork. And then they meet the old man who's basically like, yeah, um, I need you.
Right.
Doesn't really say why, but I need you. They end up getting put back on their ships. They now contact the Maquis ship. They ask if their people are there. They're like, no. They agree to bring the Maquis over to the Federation ship. They beam in. One of them is revealed to be a double agent. It's the Vulcan named Tuvok, who's really Janeway's chief of security, who reveals that, yeah, I was spying on you.
Yeah.
They all agree to work together to at least find their people and potentially find a way home because obviously they are way far away from their respective homelands. They set a course for where the pulses coming from the giant array are going. Get there, find some people. No, they find a uh, space rat basically, and they're like, he's like, oh yeah, these people, I've got an in with them. Bring me aboard. I'll help you out. They beam him over. He wastes a bunch of resources by eating a bunch of food and taking a very luxurious bath, which apparently he needed at some point. They beam down to the planet. It's a desolate, desert, hot planet. They meet this group called the Kazon. They're like, hey, we're trying to figure out where our people are. They meet another race called the Okampa in the form of this brutalized young woman.
Hmm.
She helps them to find her people who apparently all live underground, deep, deep underground. And it turns out that they are being taken care of by the aliens in the array. Something happened a long time ago that's caused them to want to take care of them. Meanwhile, the two people who are missing wake up in the Ocampan medical complex. They are covered in weird sores, boils, whatever you want to call them. Turns out they've been infected by something, and they think that the Ocampans tell them, yeah, you must have been separated from your people because you were sick. The caretaker sends us people from time to time who are sick. We take care of them until they die. Unfortunately,
Excuse me.
whatever you've got is fatal. This freaks them out, of course. They decide they're going to try to escape. They start to make their way through some old tunnels to try to escape. Meanwhile, our captain and our other captain from the Maquis ship are also making contact. And it seems like everybody's just a little bit behind everyone else, trying to get caught up. The caretaker, meanwhile, switches tactics and instead of sending them energy, he starts bombarding the place. He's sealing up all the holes and everything else so that the Kazon can't get down in there and the Ocampans are protected. Um, At some point, Janeway and crew go back to the array. They talk with the old man who is dying, and he tells them basically that a long, long time ago, he accidentally messed up the Ocampan planet and made it a desert, and that's why they live underground because he's been taking care of them ever since because that was his mistake. It's the debt that can never be repaid. The Kazon are just a parasitic group that is on the planet leeching out whatever resources they can. They capture the occasional Okampa and brutalize them, as we saw with the young girl. They are a technologically desolate people. They, can't even produce water. Um, they also catch wind that the caretaker is dying and that Janeway and company is around the array. They don't want them to have access to it because Janeway already has advanced technology. They don't want her to have any more, basically. Janeway doesn't want to leave the caretaker array in the hands of the Kazon, so after she and her people beam up from the planet and return once again, do all the fighting and so forth, they decide they're going to blow this thing up, even though the array could potentially send them home. They're like, no, we can't just, you know, jet off back to the Alpha Quadrant because we're going to leave these people here who are going to be totally obliterated by this horrible group. So I'm going to make the call for everybody, and I am going to blow up this array that could send us home, effectively stranding us here 75,000 light years away from our home. But hey, we'll have done the right thing. Right, guys? Yeah. So that's what they decide to do. They blow it up with tricobalt explosives, which we've never seen before. And these things are so devastatingly powerful that it only takes like three of them, and the whole station, this whole array, just completely is blown up here. So they make their way from the Kazon, and they're basically like, "All right, we don't have a ship anymore because, oh, by the way, we used it to blow up one of the Kazon's massive ships that they have for some reason. It's not really explained. One hand, they have no technology. On the other hand, they've got big ships. Whatever. So we're going to just meld our crews. Maquis, Starfleet, we're going to come together. We're going to work together, and we're going to make this long, 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 long journey home. But there is hope. There's another one of those caretaker people out there somewhere, and if we find them along the way, maybe we can get them to, rubber band us back to where we're supposed to be. And there's
Right.
other technologies and cool stuff we may find along the way too. So buck up.
Yeah.
We're here.
Right.
And that's basically the premise of the show. You're stranded. You've got to depend on these people who are magically just enough to round out the numbers needed to run this fancy new starship. And we're going to head on home the slow way.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
end. That's essentially it. Now, again, there's more to the episode than that. If you have not seen it, what are you doing? The
Right.
show's like 25 years old. Go watch it already. Stop denying yourself. But
Right.
that's it. That's essentially it. So now, um, David, Mr. First Time Watcher, once again, what did you think of this pilot?
Yeah, there are a lot of plot holes in this episode. A lot of things that you kind of just have to go, okay, okay, okay. Um, there's an introduction to a lot of characters here. I mean, this is obviously a new
Doesn't even really
cast.
matter because they die. Like, there's an
Oh,
introduction
wow,
and
that's
then
also
a lot of them
true.
die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they actually. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of a you know bold choice. Like, there's a medical officer who knows who Paris is and gives him like a talking to, and the first officer like almost doesn't want to shake his hand. And Paris is interesting. He's kind of our main character for this episode. He's the one
yeah.
who you
That's a
know
good point.
he's the one who's like working on he's at like a prison colony on New Zealand, the planet of New Zealand, and Janeway introduces
It's
herself and
it's
says, "I
Earth.
need you."
It's New Zealand on Earth.
It is Oh, it's new. It's Earth. I thought it was a whole planet called like a New
No,
Zealand.
the New Zealand penal colony on Earth.
Oh, well, okay. Anyway, I guess I was just thinking that New
It's okay.
Zealand.
It was an idyllic setting. I can see why you would think that it wasn't Earth, but no, it's
Well,
Earth.
penal colony to me says, well, was it a penal colony or was it just a penal base or something?
And I believe it does say penal colony.
So that's
I think
why
it
I thought it
does.
was a whole New Zealand was a whole new planet. But anyway, point is that Janeway comes to him and says, you know Chakotay, who's the leader of the guys, the Maquis group that we need to go find. My security officer, what's his name?
Tuvok.
Tuvok was on that ship, and so I've been tasked to go find him. Basically, um, it's a little bit kind of like we don't know where the ship is. The Cardassians say that it's gone, but I want proof, basically. And then magically, from 75 million light years away, this space station decides to pick up two separate ships like a week apart from the same part of the galaxy from 75 million light years away with this Tecreon
1,000.
beam.
75,000.
Yeah, I mean, like my point is like I can understand that they did it once, but like the fact that they it's not like they said, "Oh, we picked up some of these four Maquis people, and I need to like double check the genetic sequencing of the people because I need to like force them to become my children and carry on my stupid
I mean,
stupid task that I've had for 1,000 years."
this is one of those things where the book is most likely better because
Sure.
you get more detail in the explanation. So I will point out that when they find Neelix, Neelix tells them what's happened. He says, "Let me guess. You were somewhere else in the galaxy, and all of a sudden you were hit by a displacement wave, which brought you here."
Right.
It's like, yeah, the caretaker's been doing that for a while now.
Right.
Been dropping people off.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that they were, did it one time in a specific area and then had to do it again a week later. It's been doing it all over the place. Um, in I know that there is a
Right.
little bit of background lore about this that says that the reason it targeted those two ships, the Maquis ship and then Voyager, is because they were both in the Badlands. And the
Yes,
energy
that's the only
displacement
explanation
in
that
the
makes sense. Yeah,
Badlands, yeah, the energy displacement in the Badlands made it
is what allows
easier
it to
for
do it
them
with.
to yeah. So
Yeah,
that was part of it. But
and I can
yeah, the
understand that. Like I
caretaker's been
said, it
doing that
that
for a while.
right. The problem though is there's just a lot of things that suddenly, as if you not analyze them, they just start to kind of break down. Like the doctor guy amongst these alien group, like he explains what's going on um to Belana Torres and to um
Harry
the
Kim.
in, to Kim, and then he's literally gone. We never see him ever again. Um, the whole plan of like I'm gonna suck people from across the galaxy and force them to try and genetically be my children doesn't make any sense. Like, why do they have
No.
to be genetically you or your offspring in order for them to accomplish your mission? Like, just find someone and say, hey, I'm about to die. I need someone to continue my work. That's still a rough thing to suggest, but whatever. The fact that he and someone like a female version of himself were left to go do this, and she basically said, "Ah, screw it, I'm gonna head out." And I don't know. There's so many questions. Like,
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of that again, I know because there is all the background stuff that didn't make it into the teleplay that
right,
makes the story a bit more cogent. But
right,
you're absolutely right. Like if you there's so much you have to like make your own connection for,
right.
which can be
Well, and then
hard.
Janeway's final explanation of why we're gonna blow up this station is she wants the people protected. However, her explanation, which is basically first contact, we don't want to interfere with stuff. Basically, they have no choice. Whatever choice they make is going to affect the system. Either
Yeah.
they don't blow up the station and the bad group somehow maybe gets control of the station, or they blow it up and the other group is saved. But the idea that the prime directive somehow commands them to do one thing or the other is not true. It's just like we're here, our presence is going to affect things, and the prime directive is more about like don't affect you know species in such a way that they can't develop properly.
Right. There's a intention behind the
Right.
action.
I mean,
That is
they're already known. It's not like this civilization knowing they exist is not the problem.
Yeah.
It's the
If
fact
they
that
were
they're
worried about the prime directive, she never would have revealed herself to the Ocampas in the first place,
right.
you know.
There's
But
the
she they
prop
were more interested in getting their people back. So
right.
they actually already violated the prime directive when they beamed into the subterranean
Yeah.
city,
Yeah,
because
which
the
like nothing
surface level,
happens there.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they wander around and no one ever bothers them like ever.
not at all.
Um
No one
and
stops them. No one questions what they're doing. Nothing. They're just like, "Yeah, okay,
Yeah, what's this bit about like water? Like I understand that what is this character's name? The Neelix guy? Like
Neelix."
he's having a hard time getting water. His ship is like but the fact that one M class planet doesn't have water wouldn't presumably mean that no planets have water or that you don't have any technology that could somehow help with that. Like it's
I am so glad that you said that. I have had this problem with this plot for 25 years.
right.
The Kazon, as we clearly see, have ships.
Yes.
They are on a planet that we're
Enough to be a
told
threat to this
enough
to
to be
our
a threat,
the
right?
Voyager. Yeah.
We are told in this episode that the caretaker did something to irrevocably alter the planet to where it can no longer produce water, and all the water at least is
Oh,
deep
and the mumbo
underground.
jumbo for that was real
Yeah.
mumbo jumbo.
So, okay, you want me to believe that these people who have these ships, who cannot access the only water source that's on the planet because it's deep underground and it's protected by this massively powerful array, 5 light years away, why didn't they just get on their ships and go to another planet that had water?
Right,
They do not do a good enough job explaining what's on the planet surface that holds the Kazon there, that keeps them
right,
there. There is nothing. There is no
right.
explanation of whatsoever. Even when the captain shows up, they are living like they're destitute. They're dirty, they're
Yes,
hot, they're dehydrated, their shelters are in shambles.
yes.
It doesn't even make it look like they've been doing some kind of mining or something that
Right.
would indicate some
They
kind of
look
wealth or
like they have
sustainability.
devolved into like some
Yeah,
primordial pre-human
they look
civilization.
like
Yeah,
they're a hair's breadth away from dying from starvation and dehydration. She drops off those two big canisters of water, and they look like they've never seen water before. Get on your massive ship, go the next system over,
right,
and swim in the ocean.
right. Well, not even that. Let me just put it bluntly. The idea that you have spacefaring technology, and let's say there aren't any planets that are M size in near. There's not anything that can produce ice or like there's ice out there, right? Like I mean,
Right.
I'll put it this way:
Asteroids,
in
comets, all these things,
in the
planetary
expanse,
bodies,
in the
they're
expanse,
everywhere.
they have a problem with water. They have to go get ice haulers. They have to go out, find ice, and bring it
The
back.
Right. The point is they don't show there being anything beyond the Okampa
Yes,
themselves.
yes,
There is nothing on the planet that would make the Kazon want to stay. They
right,
know the Okampa are there, but for all intents and purposes, they can't get to them. So they are just hoping and praying that one of them scrambles up through one of the holes in the protective field and they can get hold of them for a little while, which then what do they do with them? It looks like they just beat the crap out of them all the time.
right,
So it doesn't make any sense why they're there. They don't give us enough to make a convincing case for why the Kazon are there in the first place. They're
right.
just hoping at some point that they get access to this thing.
Yeah,
That's not enough. You're
right.
literally risking death to stay here on the off chance you get access to something that,
It's
from what
two
we can
miles
tell,
underground. Like what the
right.
hell?
Go
And
somewhere else. You have ships. Whether or not you built the ships, as is a point brought up here on a little side conversation, whether they built the ships is irrelevant. They have the ships. They can fly the ships. They clearly are shown operating the ships. Take the ships and leave. Go
right,
somewhere else. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
right.
Oh,
Well,
and
and
also to
then
your point, it is not better than Encounter at Farpoint, and we can discuss that in a little bit, but just want to acknowledge that. It is not better.
yeah. The um the idea that this station, this beaming energy could a not somehow it's clearly bringing things from across the freaking galaxy to itself. The idea that it couldn't, I mean, presumably it could find a planet with water on it and beam the water over. Like what the hell? Like this thing is so powerful and yet it can't accomplish presumably a very simple task for itself, assuming the power it supposedly had, um, or that no one could get onto the station and do
Or
something.
here's a thought, caretaker, since you clearly have the ability to grab whole ships and crews from across the galaxy and bring them here, why don't you tell the Okampa that you've been protecting that you're going to start rounding them up in groups of 50 and
Right,
transporting them to another planet that you found that they
right,
can be sustained on?
right. Yeah, there's so many questions because the technology of beaming the galaxy, the bringing Voyager back to the Federation space, literally means that this station has the means of saving this race. Oh, sorry, we blew up your planet. Let's beam you to literally anywhere in the galaxy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, like what's going on? It's a very just bizarre plot, and then like the whole bit where like they're forcibly beamed on, and they're like on a farm. Like, well, how does this entity know to present what's a farm to them? And then never really makes clear what it wants or what timing it wants. It basically says, they're trying to escape, and it's like, well, you're forced my hand. I have to do this early, and then like knocks them all out and plunges this giant thing into them and this giant needle. It's like the plot was just it's half baked. There's a half baked nature to the plot, and of course the idea was is we want to take this long way. It's away from the Federation. It's not in TNG Part Two. They decided they wanted to give Voyager a unique problem. They're stuck in a part of the galaxy. They don't have any access to the Federation. They have to make it on their own. Fine. But the plot they chose is just a bit weird. Now, I remember hearing about Voyager and their being far away. I thought there was something about like an alien being like that they accidentally like got roped onto, like some creature, probably like a TNG like creature, like a whale or something, that they accidentally get caught up in its wake and get dragged, and then that creature like just continues on, but they're left behind in the wake, and they're like, oh crap, now we have to like get back. This plot is very convoluted. They don't explain who Neelix is and his race and why he's a guy who like is clearing out debris, but then it turns out he knows this girl on the planet, and they're lovers, or like I don't know what their plan, but she only has 9 years to live, and there's just a lot of stuff in the plot that's just like, I think you guys needed to take some more time to think this out. However, I will say they introduce a lot of characters, so there's a lot of potential with this cast, I feel. So that's probably what we should talk about next is all these characters. Everyone from Janeway to Paris to what's his face, Lakoya, or
Chakotay.
Chakotay. Um,
So so yes, we have Captain Janeway, Chakotay, Tuvok, um, Tom Paris, Harry Kim, B'Elanna Torres, Neelix, Kess, and the Doctor.
mhm.
That would be the full cast as it stands right now.
Right, right.
Um, we don't know at this point what roles every person's going to take, but we can kind of already tell a little bit. We know that Janeway is obviously the captain. Obviously, we know that Chakotay is going to fall in line as first officer since he was a captain in his own right. On his own ship. We know that Tuvok is going to be chief of security still. We know that Harry is the operations officer. We know that Tom Paris is more than likely going to be the pilot because the original pilot died. We
Right,
know that the emergency medical hologram is going to be the doctor because, again, the other doctor died.
right,
But that's it. We don't really have solid roles for anyone else at this time.
right. Yeah. Paris is an interesting character because he's presented as this disgraced former Federation officer, but we have a little bit of a problem because it turns out with the Maquis characters of both B'Elanna Torres and um, what's his face? Gosh, these names I have to learn to remember. Um,
Harry Kim?
No, Chakotay. They're also former Federation officers. So we have a little of a curious situation where like everybody that when we integrate these two groups together, only that extra fourth guy whose name is never mentioned is seemingly not a former Federation officer. Paris has an interesting history where he was a Federation pilot, but in some sort of accident, he was able
So
to.
this is where I get to talk about how Tom Paris is not who you think he is. Or, yes, exactly that. If you remember from Star Trek The Next Generation, there's an episode
Okay,
where when Wesley Crusher is away at Starfleet Academy, there is an accident. And everybody goes back to try to figure out what the accident is. And there is a series of cadets who are supposed to be participating in a aerial display for the upcoming graduation ceremony. There's
right,
an accident and a student dies. There's an investigation. It leads to a cover up, which is eventually exposed because Picard figures out that something is going on and basically challenges Wesley to tell the truth.
right,
Well, one of the people that is kind of the ringleader on the cover up is a young cadet named Nick Locarno. Nick
right.
Locarno, played by Robert Duncan McNeil, the same guy who plays Tom Paris. So,
Really?
yes,
So they basically said, we're going to borrow the character's plot line that you've already played and just give it to you a character that you have a different name.
so it wasn't borrowed, it was directly ripped off. They make enough indirect references to it. But basically, what happened here was the intent had been to use the Locarno character and have them fulfill this role. But they ended up
Right.
not doing that because if I remember correctly, there was a problem with the originator of that story, like the original writer or something like that. So like had something to do with like rights or something like that. So for some reason they
Wow.
didn't
Really?
maintain, yeah, like if I remember correctly, they didn't maintain the rights long enough. So when the time came around to recycle this character, they couldn't. They couldn't name him
Interesting.
that, they couldn't call him that, they couldn't do anything. So they just make indirect references to an incident that he covered up and caused the deaths of. And instead of it being one person that he caused the death of, he causes the death of three people. Yeah, but
Right.
it was, yeah, that's what it was. They didn't want to pay the royalties to the original writer if they used that character and storyline. So they changed it so they wouldn't have to.
Okay. Now, the plot too of what he says happened is that he got away with it, but then he had a crisis of conscience and admitted that he had faked the reports about what happened.
Yes.
He got himself basically court-martialed for it. He
Hmm.
then joined the Maquis because he'd been kicked out of Starfleet. And on his first mission with the Maquis, got captured and was sent to the penal colony. And so
Yes.
that's where we meet him with Janeway. And so he's
Correct.
kind of this bitter former Federation, former Maquis guy who's a womanizer. I mean, fine. It's just, let me put it this way: the character comes off as very jaded when we first meet him here. So
Yeah.
this
He's
is
very
not
much
the
he's a man without a country. He can't be in Starfleet. He can't be in the Maquis. He no one really likes him, on all fronts.
right.
And he's on the outs with his family as well. So it's just like I'm gonna pretend like I don't care about anything because basically I'm just, in that kind of loser status of
Right.
life right now. Um,
Well, what I want to
yeah,
kind of get to is that this is going to be an interesting thing to talk about. I feel because when you compare it to TNG, there is no equivalency of some sort of disgraced members of the group. You know, Enterprise is captained by the best of the best, and their challenges are always if they're anything internal challenges like Geordi with his eyes or learning how to be the best engineer and talking with the designer what's her name Dr. what's her name
Crusher, Dr. Pulaski,
no the woman who made the Enterprise the
Leia
doctor
Brahms.
that's it yeah Leah Brahms like those are always it's never internal. I did something wrong and therefore I need to I need to redeem myself. Nothing about the TNG characters is like I need to redeem myself in the eyes of others. they're always the best they could be, and so most of their challenges are external. Monster of the week, group of the week, challenge of the week are
That's what
issues.
and you know what? That's a great distinction because that's exactly why the show was compelling. You were watching professionals who had already been trained and knew how to do things, who were now encountering new problems that
Right,
they had to apply their skills and experience to. There wasn't any of this I need to find myself stuff. They were
right,
already grounded individuals who were now moving forward and finding new problems and new questions and trying to solve things and so forth. And that was kind of the whole point of Starfleet Academy was getting you to that point.
right,
And then on the Enterprise, yes, you don't see these officers that much that come through who still have this kind of chip on their shoulder, needing to sort themselves out very much. And when they do show up, they rub the crew the wrong way. They directly cause issues. Like great call out of Ro Laren. When Ro Laren comes onto the Enterprise for the first time, she immediately butts heads with Riker.
in particular, yeah.
Um, yeah, particularly Riker, which we see as they play that off later on as some kind of
Romantic.
weird attraction, which never should have happened. But she particularly butts heads with Riker, and why? Because on the ship, Riker, second in command, is well, he's the disciplinarian.
Right,
He's the one that handles insubordination, keeps the crew in line,
right,
all that kind of stuff. So he's the one that when your department head says you're being difficult, you deal with Riker.
right,
Picard ultimately would step in when it's like, next level abstract problems, which is what Rolaren brings to him eventually. But at first, it's you have to kowtow.
right.
You have to do things our way. Um, Another call out, Cedo Jaxa. She is another officer who she's Bajoran. She comes on board the Enterprise. She's also involved in the incident with Nick Locarno at the Academy. And Picard
Mhm.
intentionally requested her to be on board the Enterprise because he wanted to make sure that she got a fair shake at a career
Right,
because that whole incident was a black mark on her and it
right,
was going to stop her from being able to really do anything or serve anywhere. And
right,
he knew that if she was actually in a welcoming environment that would allow her to grow and perform, that
right,
she would do well. And it
right,
would also help her out to be on the Federation flagship as the place where you did well.
right,
Black mark be damned.
right.
Now, ultimately, the fate of Cedo Jackson is, it's very
Bad.
tragic, but
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, that was the whole point of why he did that for her.
Right,
But yeah, you're right. We don't really see that kind of conflict because that's kind of the whole point. You're
right,
not supposed to. By the time you get on the ships, and especially the Federation flagship, you should be a consummate professional. There should be no question about your abilities. You're not showing up late. You're not
right.
lost in the corridors. You know what you're supposed to be doing to get to that level.
Right. Well, part of the reason I bring it up is because you had talked about the Starfleet Academy show, and you even mentioned it. But my understanding is that the main character, as at least as the pilot episode kind of gives us, is the one kid who gets brought on by Holly Hunter's character, and
Hmm.
he has a rough past as well. So there's a very similar starting point.
Yeah,
So I guess what I'm
yeah.
getting at is that people who are critiquing Starfleet Academy, fine. It's just a curious thing to point out. This first episode of Voyager has problems. We have a similar, the captain comes and grabs a troubled young character and says, "I want you to join me on my voyage to do this or that," and then becomes, I presume, an integral part of the cast. Um,
I would only say though that the difference here is that Tom Paris he's not a kid. He's
sure,
certainly not a kid.
right,
He may be a bit younger, but he's not a kid. I would say he's at that middle ground where um like again, things haven't turned out the way that he wants, but there's still time for him to have his redemption arc and turn things around,
right,
versus and so in a way he's already been informed about himself because he knows how low he's been. Again, he's already gone through the whole I had my change of heart, I saw the light, I whatever you want to call it moment, and I did the right thing, but ultimately I was down and out for a while, and now I'm just trying to find a path. I'm trying to find a way back. And that's where he is.
right,
Versus in the Academy show, they don't know anything and they haven't really done anything. They certainly have experienced hardship, sure,
Right.
but it's not to the point of where they are locked into any one course, and that's kind of the message of Starfleet Academy. You guys have been through a lot, you've been traumatized, the burn happened, it messed a bunch of stuff up for you all. We're trying to give you an opportunity at a new course, a new path before it's too late and before you end up doing something, terrible, illegal, or killing yourself.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I find the character of Paris interesting in part because I'll put it this way: the opening episode of both TNG and Deep Space Nine is to set kind of the tone for the whole series. You know what's going on here, and TNG, as we basically said from the beginning, is very kind of upbeat. But you got Q showing up, and he's this just bizarre character who like questions the very existence of the Federation and humanity, and basically literally puts humanity on trial via Picard. And then they have to save this weird space creature as a part of what they do. Um, Deep Space Nine, we have a little more direct kind of issue of, how is Cisco going to handle being a commander in a position where he doesn't want it, and then how does he integrate into a society that's literally alien to him, as the emissary character. And this one, the whole premise is we have a group of people who are supposedly not allies because we have a number of kind of disgraced former officers of the Federation who have joined up, at least a number of them, with the Maquis, and now we're going to integrate them into our ship's command structure because we are desperate for people. Um, so that's going to be interesting. I know that's kind of what the show will be about. Like Lakota, or he's now
Chakotay.
the Chakotay. Like he's now first officer. Like that's
Yes.
quite the promotion from disgraced Maquis leader of of a Maquis group. Um, it's interesting. His character in this episode doesn't do a terrible lot. I mean, for the guy who's going to be basically the Riker of the show, he's doesn't do a terrible lot in this.
That's
Uh,
a
well, in terms of his position on the ship,
calling him the Riker of the. Oh my.
just in
Oh.
terms of position on the ship, just that's all I mean. But anyway,
Woo.
yeah.
Don't say that to like anyone else, because you'll see as you get it. I'm gonna give you a pass because you've never watched it before, but you'll
Oh no,
see.
yeah, I'm just talking literally. He as in terms of
Yeah.
the position
Oh
he
my
has on the
God, no.
ship now. I mean, that's what I mean. Like going from Ro Laren's position basically to becoming the Riker character in terms of position on the ship would be a huge jump if it had happened on TNG. And Voyager's like that's where we're starting.
Well,
Um,
so even again, I'll give a little bit of context, so there's a little bit of defense here. Chakotay is a Starfleet graduate. He
right,
wasn't kicked out. He didn't. He resigned his commission. He was
right.
already a fully commissioned officer, had his own posting, and he stepped down from it in order to join the Maquis. So basically,
Because
what Janeway does
he's
here,
Native American. Is that accurate? And they
yes,
make
and
jokes about
as
him
you
being Indian.
Yes, he's Native American, and as you know, in the TNG episode in the 6th or 7th season, when the Federation signs that peace treaty with the
Hmm.
Cardassians and establishes the demilitarized zone,
Hmm.
the
Journey
the Native
zone.
American, well, now they're not Native Americans; they would just be considered Indian, I guess, at this point. They had established a colony on one of those planets in that
Hmm.
zone. And
Hmm.
so basically what we're supposed to take away from this is Chakotay is a Indian from one of those
Right,
colony
right,
worlds.
right.
And so he just basically took up arms to defend his home, and the Maquis were the only ones that were, doing that. So there you go for that. Since he is a captain in his own right, and the leader of the Maquis people, and they have to integrate these crews, that's the reason that Janeway makes the decision. It's not just about him being, like a Maquis or whatever. But he's the obvious choice. He's already their leader. He already has their respect. They're already used to following his orders. And
Hmm.
integrating him into the chain of command makes the most sense. And she certainly wasn't going to step down and not be captain and let him be captain.
Right.
So yeah, making him first officer, especially after her first officer died,
Hmm.
makes the most sense for him. So
Right.
that's what happened.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. To
yeah,
be
so I mean,
clear, I
if
get it.
if
It's just a very curious choice.
yeah, I mean, she could have very easily been like, "Look, you're a Maquis. I need you, but I'm not going to put you in my command staff per se." And Tuvok could have easily stepped into that role as first officer, but it makes sense in the way of we're trying to get everyone to work together. So I'm going to basically co-captain here um with the Maquis leader.
Right.
I just thought it was always interesting how easily he gives in. You know, he
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he when she says, "Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna blow up this array," and B'Elanna's like, "Who is she to make these choices?" And he's like, "She's the
She's
captain."
the captain.
It's like,
Yeah.
"What? I mean, aren't you the captain?" Like, give me that moment there. No, I'm gonna be the captain. I feel like my
Yeah.
tactics could get us home. Like he falls in line so quick.
Yeah.
That was always a problem for me. I
Right.
would have loved to see him and Janeway have to like square off a few times and him being like, look, I'm not in your chain of command. Like, I don't have to do anything, you know, but yeah, he didn't do that at all. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. My understanding of his character is that there is going to be conflict between him and Janeway.
oh
A
yeah.
noticeable amount of it. So the idea here that he did give in so quickly is an interesting choice. I mean, again, I
We're gonna
I
end up
I
talking
I,
a lot about Chakotay.
I understand.
Um,
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure I give I want to give the writers a chance to
yeah,
try and tell a story because I mean it's hard to tell stories. It's hard to, especially if
it
you have to
is, and
knock
this
one
is
out
coming.
once a week or every 2 weeks. Like it's gonna be hard to work out all the kinks and all the plot holes and try
And
and
like
make
I said,
something happen. So
this show is coming in right at kind of the end of what is considered the golden age for Trek.
right,
Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager are like the three that really anchor this time period, for
right,
us. Obviously, the original series, it was so dated in the 60s and we didn't have anything until the 80s. But these shows pretty much owned the 90s, the
right.
late 80s, early 90s. That's a very long time for a franchise. Not to mention there are movies that overlap all of this. So this was like a solid, again, a solid time period, and so much so that Paramount was using these shows to launch other things. The UPN network started with Voyager.
Right.
That was going to be their, kind of bread and butter there as well. Yeah, CBS, Paramount, all that stuff were banking on Voyager being a success, and eventually it is what got us Enterprise right there at the tail end, the literal tail end of the '90s there. So um, it it took a while for the show to find its footing for sure, but
Hmm.
I would say that overall it gets there. Voyager comes out like when as you'll see as we go through this, maybe you'll see anyway, it comes out as one of the shows that is um, the second most popular. Next Generation has won that most popular title every decade,
Right.
but Voyager is always a very close second. And I think that we will see why. It's got a lot of interesting things about it. We will be getting into all that. But as far as first episodes go, I don't think it's that bad. Like you said, it's got
Right.
some plot holes for sure, but things are workable. So we will see where that goes.
Well, it's funny
Um,
because I basically after having just watched Nemesis and having talked
mhm.
about the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, um, basically I allowed myself to be more critical
Yeah, no,
this time
absolutely,
around because I was
absolutely.
watching it and I was certainly enjoying it while I was watching it. It's only after the fact when I'm like having to critique it that I'm starting to think and I'm looking at the Wikipedia page and the things people have said and I'm like, yeah, there's some issues to like in terms of
Oh
plot.
yeah,
So
And
Um,
we're gonna and there's a lot of issues with this show in general. And as we get deeper into it, we will also start to do things where like we will compare certain moments to things that we've seen that we know from Deep Space Nine. Um, all of that is going to come up for us as well, in which is why for me, I can't wait to make it further into the show and then we really get into the chance for review because even though I said Voyager wins that second spot for most popular, to
mhm,
me it should go to D Space Nine, and we'll
mhm,
get to those moments as to why.
right.
So now before we end everything, because it's now been brought up twice, rather watch Caretaker versus Encounter at Farpoint. Fine. I'm going to explain to you really quick why at Farpoint is better. Encounter at Farpoint is better because it is a complete mystery. And by that, I mean it does the appropriate breadcrumbs and the solving of the problem piecemeal. It does a much better job of that than what we get out of Caretaker. As David has already pointed out in this episode, there are a lot of plot holes and reasonings behind why the Caretaker is doing what they do, and we never get full explanations for it. In Encounter at Farpoint, that is the opposite is true. We get all the information, we get it a little disjointed and out of order, but
Mhm,
even the characters recognize that we're not getting the full picture of things, and they help us to put it together.
right,
They give us the complete story. They do the heavy lifting for us, which is what they're supposed to do because we are the audience. We are supposed to be believing them as people who are in the situation for the first time and they're trying to figure it out, and they give us the whole story. By the end of Encounter at Farpoint, you know the whole history of Groppler Zorn and his people. You know that they found that um, um, tentacled creature and have been torturing it. You know that there is another one that is looking for its mate. We see the comparison as to why they're related and where the missing pieces are that Picard points out at one point. We see that when the away team beams over to the alien ship, and we start to piece it together. Deanna also does her bit of heavy lifting here with the emotional connections between the two characters, one in despair, one angry. We get all of the pieces that we need to see that these two things are linked somehow. We're not sure entirely how they're linked until they figure out it's an energy thing and they
mhm,
give the necessary energy needed for the thing to kind of assume its normal shape and see
right,
that Groppler Zorn has been intentionally hurting this thing. We don't see that in Caretaker. We don't know why. Um, it takes a while to figure out why the caretaker is doing what he's doing. We also don't see that he cures these people, right? Like he's just letting them die.
yeah,
And why is it, like David said, why is it so important that they be his children? Why does
right,
he only his children can continue this? There are so many other options for how he can solve the Ocampans problem, and the fact that they don't ever explain why he didn't at least try some of those makes
right,
no sense. Also, why the Kazon are so interested, we still don't really know, other than they just happen to be there. There are too many glaring issues with just missing information for
right,
Caretaker to beat Encounter and Farpoint. And Encounter and Farpoint also introduces all new characters to us completely.
right.
We don't
Well, and
get that.
I'll put it this way to kind of to simplify what you said a little bit, if I may. The A plot and the B plot of Encounter at Farpoint are connected. They are very different. You have Q being like, I want to figure out why you believe humanity should just be annihilated, but I'm going to tie my quote unquote judgment to how you behave in this particular thing you're dealing with on your first mission as this new Enterprise crew. So the plots are interconnected. Meanwhile, this whole, caretaker bringing people from across the galaxy to help him solve this problem that he created does not really have anything to do necessarily with the Marquis and the Federation
Not at
being at
all.
odds. Now, his actions are going to cause them to have to work together, but they're not going to then solve his problem. They're not going to then bring about a solution to anything else. Um, so the plots being disconnected and only tangentially interacting with each other is a flaw in comparison to Counter at Farpoint. Um,
Mhm.
if this caretaker character like Q said, "I am powerful and I'm not going to help you until you like do something for me," for example, Like that would actually be more interesting. Let's say that this caretaker character was like, I'm desperate, I need help. I've searched the galaxy and I know the Federation takes these kinds of tasks seriously. Like you actually will be a great envoy for me on my mission to solve this problem. So I'm going to basically, subvert you guys, bring you here, and have you work on my behalf. That actually would have been a fun little plot. Like, we don't know who our master is, this caretaker guy, but he's brought us here and he's forcing us to act on his behalf. And that would actually have been a more interesting kind of plot. We'd still have to figure out what it is that he needs done, but we could have then said that he's still around. We could be mad at him. We could come back to him at various points, like Q does. Q shows up all the time to mess with Picard. So yeah, I agree with you that plot, TNG's plot. I mean, it's fun to watch the technological advancements. I mean, this episode looks fantastic. I like the bridge. It's got the Enterprise bridge is fun, but it definitely is a little outdated. You only have like 2 desks or 2 seats, and then you have the 3, and then you have like the councils behind them where people have to stand to do anything. At least in this one, where they have to stand, it's like a cubby where like this is your area. Presumably, like when the ship gets flung, people die, but presumably the people who were in their little cubby area were okay. It's a ship that looks like it was intentional.
Mhm.
TNG's, that bridge is meant to also be like a place where you host people. It's supposed
You're
to
right.
be a
It's a
diplomatic.
very open concept. It's supposed to look very sleek, very refined. That was the whole point of the Enterprise D.
Right,
We are making a statement here that we are so powerful that we can just like we have all this open maneuverability,
right,
and it's actually something that they definitely moved away from in all other iterations of Trek. Even Strange New Worlds, which is supposed to be our throwback, if you watch the show and you look at the bridge layout, everything is closer. All the seats like fit into a section, and they make it
right,
very much. It's way more functional than what it used to be. So yeah.
right. I will. Miles O'Brien Davis is the name of the person we're talking to. I think that's not the name I remember seeing before. But anyway, the plot may be dumber than Farpoint, but it's more fun. I will say this, as I just said, the technological advancements make this
Mhm.
episode. There's more action
Yeah,
than I think the opening of TNG had, which definitely makes that more fun. Like the plot has, I want to say the plot definitely had some things going for it. Like why did Bolana Torres and Kim get captured, and why are they growing these growths? Well, we find out kind of why. The growths are basically a failed attempt to merge the caretaker's DNA or something with them, but how they get healed is never explained.
never
Um,
explained,
which
and never. It's also not explained as to why they're the only ones who had these growths. We see both crews are snatched up and experimented on by the caretaker.
right,
Why only those two
yeah,
did
it's like
the
they
growths appear or whatever?
it's like
It's
they
not
were like
explained.
partially successful, but they didn't get all the way successful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess to summarize everything I'll say about this episode, it has potential. The cast is interesting. Janeway is because it's compelling. It's the first time we see her. She has it's not her husband, but like a boyfriend, fiance who's caring
Yeah.
for her dog, and it seems very sweet. And the fact that she's now going to be separated from this person for a long period of time is unfortunate. There's no other character who gets a similar moment with anyone else like that, except we hear that Kim's mom wanted to drop off his clarinet, and Tuvok apparently his family doesn't worry about him, but they miss him, kind of thing. Because that he's a Vulcan, of course.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, this show definitely has potential with its interesting setup. These we have characters who are we know can clash. It's definitely not a rehash of TNG in that sense because we're not just copy pasting a number of characters over onto this cast. They have potential for something different. But yep, there were some plot issues in the episode, which are unfortunate.
Hmm.
I mean, let me put it this way: if the water issue maintains, where only the Voyager ship has easy access to making water like it does, then that will have been a plot point that was kind of silly in this episode. We'll have to see. Um, yeah, stuff like that.
Well, all right. I think that's going to basically wrap everything up for us here on this first episode of Voyager for us. Quick question, and we'll try to make this a quick question. How do you feel it compares to the first episode of Deep Space Nine?
I think Deep Space Nine probably takes the cake overall, simply because it is the most TNG's episode is it because it's the first in a long time for Star Trek. The technological aspects of that episode stand out as a problem. It didn't have the budget necessary to
Hmm.
give it all its umph. Um, for example, a lot of what happens that episode is just Picard sitting in a chair getting grilled by Q, and then we have Deanna Troy in a tunnel going, "My head hurts," kind of stuff. Um, but Deep Space Nine's episode, we go to the planet, we meet the Kai, he goes to the wormhole. We have the Picard episode. Like, oh, we didn't talk about Quark, as Miles O'Brien mentioned here. We didn't. The Quark uh, part of this episode was definitely a lot of fun seeing Quark here. But what the heck? Why don't we have more like anybody else, Deep Space Nine cast or anybody? Like they start on Deep Space Nine, but none of our Deep Space Nine officers show up at all.
So I remember reading a long time ago that there was actually a scene that was filmed but never used where Janeway and Janeway and Kira. Um, no, I'm sorry, Janeway and Cisco. Yeah, they have a conversation with each other
Right?
about her mission to the Badlands or whatever it is. Um, and for whatever reason, they just didn't use it. There's never been an explanation given for why they didn't have them, do the scene or whatever or use the scene, but they just didn't do it. I always thought that was a mistake. I thought that they should have continued that tradition, like the passing of the torch that they kind of established with Picard and Cisco a little bit. Have
Uh huh.
Cisco and Janeway sit down and have this kind of that's what it was supposed to be. It was like an intel briefing. Hey, we know
Yes.
that they disappeared in the Badlands. Here's all our intel on the Badlands. They
Right.
even make a reference to the intel in the episode. They're like, our intel says that on the day of whenever this occurred, the plasma storms were at this particular level of intensity, so their
Hmm.
course would have forced them in this area, whatever else. That was what the scene was supposed to be, was Cisco giving her the intel on the Badlands and the Cardassian troop movement in the area and all that other kind of stuff. But they just didn't use it.
Right.
From what I understand, it was filmed, but they just never used it. So
Yeah.
it exists
Well,
somewhere.
there is a funny reason for why maybe this didn't happen. At least, well, let me put it this way: Deep Space Nine, the episode that happened right before the pilot of Voyager, apparently would have been Past Tense Part Two, which came out on January 7th, 1995, and Caretaker came out on January 16th of 1995. So presumably, if we're using those dates, which are probably not accurate quite to the Star Trek star dates, but let's just presume that that's the reason why. Turns out Cisco and a lot of the a lot of the crew, Dax and Bashir, were off on Earth experiencing you know, time dilation
Time dilation.
problems, time travel shenanigans. So they were actually not even on the station at the time that Voyager gets going. Um, so maybe that's the explanation, because for whatever reason we have to send every senior officer we have
We
on.
always send our senior officers, "Hey, we're making sure they're meeting our best, okay? We don't ever
Right.
want." I mean, heck, even when Janeway beams down to the Kazon planet, it's her, Paris, Neelix, Chakotay, Tuvok. I
Yeah.
mean, just your entire senior
Senior
group, we're
and
all going.
yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I just want to say, if there isn't a plot somewhere where it turns out that that was how a coup or something happens on a ship, it's um what's the word for it? A mutiny. If a mutiny doesn't happen because everyone who was in senior command had decided to, go participate on the off mission, and then the whoever's in second command, the night shift is like, all right, here's our chance, boys. Like that's kind of
Right.
how a plot happens somewhere in the Star Trek universe. Then they've done something wrong.
That's
There's a
something
book
that you
out there, I'm
would
sure.
have been great for lower decks if it had lasted a little bit longer. That'd have been a great thing for them to do. Be like, up, all the senior officers are down on the planet. We're gonna take a cruise around the moon and have a party on the backside. They can't
Right,
stop us.
right, right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that will do it for us on this episode. We're coming up close on our, I guess, now standard time of an episode run. Actually, it's about the same amount of time that it took to watch this whole episode, as a matter of fact. So
Hmm.
that works for us. Again, we are now going to be moving through Star Trek Voyager with the occasional comparison to Deep Space Nine and some other Trek stuff as well, while keeping you abreast of, Strange New Worlds and Academy should we want to. All right. All these shows are available on Paramount Plus for you to watch, except for Prodigy, which for some reason no one has. It's not even on Netflix anymore. So if you wanted to watch it, you can. Other than that, I think that, like I said, that's going to be it for us. If you are experiencing hazardous weather conditions, please stay indoors. Don't risk going out for any reason. There's nothing out there beyond desperate food or dire emergency services that should take you out of your house right now. All right. It's
Right.
okay. Stay home, stay safe. And we will catch you all next week. So until then, take care of yourselves.
Thanks, guys.